John Harbaugh was officially announced as the head football coach for the New York Football Giants. Paul Schwartz here, Ryan Dunleavy. This is Blue Rush. It's here. It's final. No reports. It is official. So I guess let's just go with you guys' takeaways from Harbaugh's presser and what you guys were able to ask him over in the scrum. Paul, I'll start with you.
Big, right? Big.
Yeah.
Big. I mean, it's a big event. He's a big coach. He was the big fish in a pretty big pond of 10 openings, and Giants got it done first. Look, he doesn't seem like a first-time coordinator getting a head coaching job. He's been there, done that. Now, he's never had a second head coaching job. I mean, he's in one place for 18 years. He was in Philadelphia for 10 years on special teams, and then he goes to Baltimore for 18 years, and now he's with the Giants. So he said it's new. He said it can be fresh. He said it can be different. He said he's excited. First time he gets up in front of the team. He said his brother, Jim, told him, who's done this before, that it's going to feel different to you. It's going to feel invigorating. Look, he's 63 years old. He's got tremendous energy, tremendous enthusiasm, and, it's a whole new ballgame. In every way, shape, or form, in every level of this, it's a whole new ballgame, not just players, media, front office, everything. It's all going to be different now with John Harbaugh here.
I was back watching with a bunch of the players, spoke with Tyrone Tracy Jr. after this, Ryan, and I asked him, what did it feel like? And he said, well, he can definitely command a room. Understood that. You've been to these pressers, these introductory press conferences for the head coaches for the Giants.
Too many of them.
Did this one feel different, though?
Yeah, because he wasn't shy, Brandon, about expectations, I can remember where we did one with Joe Judge, who I think we all really liked, but he wouldn't even say the quarterback's name for the first 2 months on the job. John Harbaugh raved about Jaxson Dart. He had a good conversation with Malik Neighbors. At one point during the press conference, he said something, and he said, right, guys? And the players in the back of the room said, yes, sir. It was almost like they were transported to that first meeting room. So, yeah, he can command a room. He's not afraid of expectations. He's already talked about playoffs. He's talked about competing, not rebuilding, wants to win. Some things that I think were needed for the Giants, that it's not just process and day by day and things that make guys roll their eyes. They can see the big picture.
He checks a lot of boxes, or all the boxes, for what this franchise needs, I feel like, to get out of just the mud right now. And again, you heard the players back there. The respect was from day one. I asked Tyrone Tracy, during the first team meeting, do you feel like that the players that weren't here are going to feel that energy and his message was going to resonate with them? He said, absolutely. Paul, we talk about this resume. He's 18 years, a Super Bowl championship. But this is him working with Joe Schoen, a new GM. A team, a roster is different, but that dynamic, do you see it working?
I do. Look, his father, Jack, was here, right? He's a longtime coach. This guy is not some superstar. This isn't Pat Riley coming in with Armani suits. Now, a four-time champion, a great coach, but this is not a superstar coach. This is a great coach, a Hall of Fame coach, but he's a coach. His father was a coach. His brother was a coach. I mean, didn't you get that sense? He's a coach. Okay. He talks about the core tenets of coaching. He didn't come in here breathing fire like Tom Coughlin did in 2004 at all. Now, he said very interestingly that Tom Coughlin spoke with him several times and pushed him to it. And Chris Mara actually said, Tom Coughlin's the one who set up the meeting, that first meeting with Chris Mara and John Harbaugh in Baltimore. And he was asked, well, what did Tom say? And Chris Mara said, get your ass down there. It's so this is they're not cut from the same cloth, but they're similar. I talked to Sean O'Hara before, who was here when Tom Coughlin was here. And he said, it's not the exact same, but you can tell. It's a standard, it's an expectation. So they're not the same personality, Coughlin and Harbaugh, but I think it's going to resonate the same when you mentioned the first team meeting. It's not, look, Daboll, Joe Judge, Shermer, McAdoo, they were fine, but they were first-time guys. Pat Shermer wasn't, but this is different. There's a new sheriff in town, and his name is John Harbaugh. And like I said, everyone's going to feel it. Media relations, everything. It's new. It's going to be his vision.
I call him Tom Coughlin 2.0, old school with a little modernization to him. And you could just tell by the way he was bouncy. Players are going to absolutely love that and feed off of that energy. We mentioned Jaxson Dart. Obviously, there's a huge selling point to get him here, to get him in the building and to take this job. Now what? He mentioned about talking to coordinators, maybe bring in some guys from in-house in Buffalo. Does he retain? Now what, Ryan?
Yeah, I think that's where the focus turns. He said he anticipates some people, whether assistant coaches or support staff coming with him from Baltimore. Can't say. He's got to do interviews. Obviously, he's got to meet certain requirements. Somebody who's worked with him before told me John Harbaugh is only as good as his coordinators, and he has a knack for hiring great coordinators. What I thought was interesting is Mike Tomlin's only had, I think, one of his coordinators go on to be a head coach in his 19 years. While John Harbaugh's got a tree everywhere. He's got defensive coordinators like at 5 different spots are from Baltimore. Wink Martindale was here. There's guys who are position coaches everywhere. The Baltimore tree is huge. The Harbaugh tree is huge. So he is as good as coordinators because he's a CEO who doesn't call plays on either side of the ball. Remember the whole Dayball, Kafka is going to call ball. We don't have to do that anymore. That's over. It's going to be the coordinators. But he hires really good coordinators. That's where the focus will be. I think there's a chance 1 or 2 guys maybe stays from the current program. Not many. But I think Baltimore probably becomes a big focus. And Todd Monken, if he doesn't get the Browns head coaching job, will probably be the offensive coordinator, and that's good for Jaxson Dart. That their styles mesh.
Paul, you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, we both have been writing about this, right? And you speculate. Well, he's going to like the New York Football Giants of tradition. He's going to like, Jaxson Dart's going to be a magnet, but you don't really know. You assume he's going to like Jaxson Dart. Maybe he scouted him a little bit. The Ravens, they need a quarterback. Say, I don't like that kind of quarterback. But from talking to people behind the scenes and then talking to John Harbaugh on the podium and off the podium, Jaxson Dart was a big thing in this. Look, he's not coming to a place and saying, okay, let's see if we can get a quarterback. We have a guy in a roster who's okay. We picked 15th. We picked, 5th. Yeah. We'll try to get a quarterback. It's not a great quarterback. He wants as much, he's John Harbaugh. He doesn't have to settle for anything. So the tradition, he mentioned John Mara, many times is a big thing. Jaxson Dart, I think if you would have to pick one person, it would be, if you have to pick one person, maybe John Mara, he would be first. Okay. But 1A is Jaxson Dart because John Mara can't play quarterback, Jaxson Dart can. And he said, he spoke to him on the phone. He met him when he was here for his visit, and they said they had to pull him out of the room. It's like, okay, guys, we can't talk football all day. We got to keep this visit going, right? They got to go eat Mediterranean food, and then they got to get back on Steve Tisch's plane. And he's texting him ever since. So, I mean, Jaxson Dart, he loved Brian Daboll. It was a great relationship. This will be a great relationship, I think. But this was, Jaxson Dart is a magnet, man. You get either you have one or you don't. The Giants think they have one.
Why do you think this relationship will work, Ryan?
I think it'll work because Jaxson Dart wants to win. Like that's as much as I've been around Jaxson Dart, he wants to win. He took it as hard as anybody, as hard as any rookie I've ever seen that they didn't win. He put a lot of it on his shoulders. Now he's got a coach who knows how to win. And Paul mentioned, I'd be remiss if I think we didn't talk about this, Brandon, I thought Harbaugh's the story of the day. But I thought 1B story was seeing John Mara in the front row today. Absolutely. Obviously, he's sick. He was very involved in the process from Paul's reporting and from everybody saying today. He really rallied answered the bell, wanted to get it done to the very last minute. Everybody knows it was a 72-hour holdup or whatnot. Seeing him and then hearing Chris Mara talk, I've been doing this 8 years. I think that's the first time I've ever heard Chris Mara do a group interview. It's kind of a meshing of the guards of the two brothers, Chris stepping up for John, and he was very blunt in his assessment of both John, of his role going down to talk to John to recruit him, like Paul said, the Coughlin story of John stepping up, of how much it meant for the Giants to get Harbaugh. I think Chris Mara stepping up for his brother and John being here front row to see this was a very important part of today.
From the Mara brothers to Tom Coughlin to Eli Manning, it truly does feel like it was all hands on deck to get this man in this building and to get him to take this job. I guess lastly here, because you mentioned the 72-hour holdup that had Giants fans panicking for the longer. That 72 hours was absolutely crazy. I could probably compare it to the 72-hour water fast that I did one time. You're just waiting for it to be over. When you spoke to him over in the scrum, did he mention what the holdup was, or did you get any indication that maybe that deal could have fell through?
I'll tell you one thing. If I was on a 72-hour water fast, that would have seemed like a lot longer than sitting at my desk and waiting for John Harbaugh to put his name. Okay.
Yep.
No, I don't even know what a water fast is, and I don't have any idea what that is.
good for the
Okay.
body.
Well, okay. Well,
You're
that's
very trim.
That's fine.
thank you.
That's fine. You know what? I don't think it was. Look, in the social media world, an hour is agony. You know what I mean? So look, the thing is, this deal got revealed late Wednesday night. So it was a little quick. You know what I mean? They had a handshake. We good? We good. Okay, now the owners and the lawyers and the agent take over. You know, the football part is good. We got a handshake deal. That's what Chris Maris said. We got a handshake deal. I feel great about this. That takes time. You know, I don't know what it's like, a $100 million contract. And there were structural things that they changed. And he wanted in writing. Direct report, head coach to owner, and GM obviously to owner, not head coach to GM to owner. A big deal? Not a big deal, but it's something they want in writing. It has to be the way he wants it. He's John Harbaugh. He doesn't have to settle. They talk about, final say. GM has always had final say. Now it's much more of a partnership. John Harbaugh said they're not saying, I don't think, does John Harbaugh have final say of the roster? I think what it is John Mara always feels you need to figure it out and be collaborative.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know what he feels? You don't come, you settle. I pay you both a lot of money. You don't come to me unless, it's like two kids, right?
Yep.
Look, don't come for us. You figure it out, and if you can't, then you come to me. So look, that is not going to be a problem, I don't think. Do you think it's going to be a problem?
No, but Chris, I do think it's notable. Chris said, I don't know if it was significant or important. He did say John will have the most significant or important, one word, voice in the room. So
John Harbaugh, and you know what?
Yeah.
It's a very easy. He's making $100 million.
Yeah.
The people who make the most money he is the face of the Giants now.
Correct.
Because he's making $100 million. So you pay a guy that much, he is now the important voice. But I don't think it's going to be with the 5th pick that he says, I want a receiver,
Correct.
and Joe Shane says,
I guess
all my people think we should take
Correct.
a cornerback. Okay, we can't figure this out. It's not going to come to that. Look, and you know what? John Harbaugh's not an expert in scouting. Joe Shane's the expert. And look, it can be. If you want to have a conspiracy theory and think he's the most phony man in America. He said a lot of very complimentary things about Joe Shane. You know what I mean? And he didn't know him. He did not know him before this until Joe Shane went on the plane to get him in Baltimore. Okay, and on the way back, they started forming a relationship. If Harbaugh, after a couple of days, said, you know what? I'm just not feeling it with this guy. He's fine, but I'm not feeling it with him. Then it would have been, I come,
There's a
he
way
goes,
for-
or he's, demoted, and he'll play out his last year in quiet, or I want to bring my own guy. John Harbaugh is not that kind of guy.
we've been to a lot of these things. There's a way, if you're not confident in the guy, to say, we'll see how it goes. Well, to kick the can down
I'll bring my guy in to help.
Yes,
to
correct.
help. You know what I mean?
You don't say it's going to be phenomenally great
Right.
partnership if you know that in 4 months the New York Post is going to use what happened to that phenomenally great partnership you were expecting against you. So you pick your words carefully. I think what was noticeable, to answer your question, Brandon, is Joe Sheen said the reason it took so long is because Harbaugh canceled his meeting with the Titans on Wednesday. And once that happened, that was like an earlier sign than normal that a deal was done. Because, maybe the deal wouldn't have been done Wednesday night. Maybe it wouldn't have leaked out. Then it wouldn't have been at 72 hours. But once he canceled his meeting with the Titans, everybody knew he wanted to come to the Giants. That's what they were earlier in the negotiation than they normally are when the deal gets out because he canceled his meetings elsewhere.
And I think Joe Shane did a great job of showing that he is a football mind. Like you heard Harbaugh say, he's a football guy, how meticulous he is. He has details and notes on what type of players he wants at each kind of position. So I think it was something where Joe Shane kind of had to win him over, per se.
Look, John Harbaugh, he said he had his father, Jack, studying the roster.
Yeah.
And he said his father said to him, "Hey, you see the Giants? You see this?" So his
The way they fire off the ball, the way
The offensive line fires off the ball.
I want to ask Jack Harbaugh. Are you seeing the same tape? I saw some of these games, but I digress. there, okay? But did you watch? Did the tape end after 3 quarters in some of these games?
Yeah.
Maybe he turned off the tape. They're going to win the Denver game. I don't know if they watched the 4th quarter. But John Harbaugh is investigating everything. So he has people all around the league. You don't think he asked people about Joe Shane, from Miami, from Carolina, from the Giants, asking them, what's the deal with this guy? Can I work with him? Is he good? Does he know his stuff? John Harbaugh's not walking into a job and getting a general manager who he hasn't thoroughly researched. So clearly any questions he had were answered. Look, Joe Shane has been here for 4 years. First year was terrific. Second year was not great. The third year was horrible. And the fourth year was
almost worse.
Almost worse in a lot of reads. One game better, but the only thing better about the fourth year is he found the quarterback.
Yep.
So that's the only thing that makes people believe, and keeps people hope. But he's not going to screw this up by having a power play with a guy who has all the power or holds most of the power. Yeah. I think it'll be fine.
Final thought, Ryan.
It's a new era. Like, there's excitement there. I believe there were 240 chairs here and plenty of standing room only people. I've been to a lot of these. This was the most excitement that I've seen. Paul's been to more of these. He was at Coughlin. I was in college, But this was the most excitement I've seen around the Giants.
And talking to the players and the staff that are in the building, they all feel it. They're, like you said, players are tired of losing. Staff tired of losing. John Harbaugh brings that hope, and today was the first day of that hope. Thank you guys for watching Blue Rush. For Ryan Dunleavy and Paul Schwartz, I'm Brandon London. See you guys next time.